Okay, we're going to tap on fraud syndrome. So start with the uh, side of the hand, just under, this is the karate chop point, just under the line on the, under the pinky. Okay, so this is the setup. We say it 3 times. Even though I can totally get sucked into fraud syndrome, I still deeply love and completely accept myself. Even though the force of fraud syndrome can grab me and make me believe that I'm a total fraud, I still deeply love and completely accept myself. Even though I can feel fraud syndrome coming on and get sucked into it and believe that's the truth, I still deeply love and completely accept myself. Okay, now that's the last time we do the karate chop point. We are now going to start at the crown. You're welcome to tap with your whole hand if you like, or kind of use all the fingers. Most tapping happens with the index and the middle finger. So here we go. I feel like a fraud. It's easy for me to feel like a fraud. I actually believe I'm a fraud sometimes. I actually buy into, now we're just inside the eyebrow here, I actually buy into concepts to declare why I'm a fraud. Just repeat after me each time and change the words if you like. Okay, outer eye. I feel so defeated when I feel like a fraud. It's like my bubble bursts. My energy drains. Okay, under the eye, you're at the top of the cheekbone. I do myself such a disservice when I think I'm a fraud. Under the nose and over the upper lip. You can stretch the skin a little if you like. I would never call somebody in my situation that I was mentoring a fraud. If I were looking out for someone else exactly in my position, maybe someone young and dear and important to me, I would not call them a fraud. Okay, now you're on the point. It's the chin point, but it's above the chin and below the lower lip. It's not cool to call myself a fraud. It's unkind. It's self-sabotaging. Okay, under the collarbone round, just below it, maybe half an inch, whatever feels right. When I treat myself like a fraud, I lose track of what my vision is. I lose track of what my talent is. Okay, come under, this is the bra strap point, but so you're basically on the side of the ribs about a hand's width from the bottom of your armpit. Okay, so we're tapping there. I lose connection from my guidance system when I feel like a fraud. I feel disconnected from source. Okay, back to the crown. When I feel like a fraud, I lose track of the journey that brought me to where I am. I lose track of my soul's journey. I disregard inner eyebrow. I disregard the skills I have, the talents I have, the experience I have. When I treat myself like a fraud, I lose the impulse, the bliss, the joy, the passion for what I am moving toward. Okay, under the bone, it's not any lack of mine that makes me deflate. It's not something I've done wrong that makes me deflate. Okay, under the nose, it's just this crazy concept that I'm a fraud. Chin point, I'd like to never believe that again. Under the collarbone, or I'd like to catch it when I believe that again, and pause and breathe it. I'd like to feel in my body what it does to feel like a fraud, to call myself a fraud. Okay, side of the rib point again. When I catch myself feeling like a fraud, I'd like to pause and breathe into what's truer. I'd like to let the breath dissipate how bad that feels. Crown. In other words, I'd like to bring presence to feeling like a fraud. Inner eyebrow. I'd like to meet that in the now moment that it comes up. Outer eye. I'd like to breathe it and feel it at the body level to clear it out. Under the eye, top of the cheekbone. I'd like to notice the thoughts and call myself on the lie of them. Under the nose, I'd like to catch the disempowerment, the self-sabotage of it, and kindly breathe that. Chin point, which is really the groove. I'd like to call forth the ally inside me, my higher self. I'd like to call that aspect forth to put an arm around me and walk myself through the moment of accusing myself of being a fraud. Under the clavicle round, as best I can when I feel myself accusing myself of fraudulence, or when I hear thoughts that are about fraud syndrome, or when I resist doing what I know will move forward, what I want, and I can drop into the resistance and feel that I'm just scared of being a fraud. In those moments, I'd like to let it go. Breathe it. Step into the expansion. Bra strap point. In those moments, I'd like to reach for a kinder thought, a truer thought. Crown. In those moments, I'd like to connect to Source, to the angels and guides that show me the way, to my higher self. In those moments, I'd like to honor the journey that got me to wanting to move something forward that I care about, that I love, that I'm curious about doing. Inner eyebrow. I'd like to stop thinking I should be a master from the start. Outer eye. I'd like to set myself free by allowing myself to play, to experiment, to just try stuff and see what I learn. Under the eye. I'd like to believe that my guidance system is with me every step of the way. Under the nose. That every experiment I could try comes from guidance. Chin point. I'd like to stop comparing myself to whoever's ahead of me or whoever I think is more talented. I would never do that to somebody else. I would never point somebody else to who's ahead of them. Okay, under the clavicle, I want to allow myself to be a beginner. I want to play with beginner's mind and enjoy beginner's mind. Under the armpit, I'd like to honor that when I don't know, when I'm not the expert, then something new is possible. Crown, I get to see new things, try new things, experiment with new things, discover new things. Inner eyebrow, I'd like to remember that if I'm just a little ahead of somebody else, I can give them a hand up. I can show them the way. I'd like to keep in mind that when I evaluate myself, before it's really a good time to evaluate, or when I feel insecure, or when I'm focused on the accomplishments of others who are ahead of me, under the eye, that evaluation is useless. And that evaluation cripples the child beginner inspired being in me who just wants to play. Under the nose, who just wants to move forward something that life has called my attention to. Something I love. Chin point. I'd like to honor that what I'm seeking to get better at and to put out in the world matters. Collarbone. I'd like to remember and remind myself that what I love to do comes from source, comes up from inside me, from my deepest being. Under the armpit, bra strap point. And I'd like to remember that when I give myself permission, that when I give myself space to discover, to get better, even to work with others or show things to others that are not fully formed, that are in progress. That's when I let in the magic. That's when I move forward on my journey. That's when I start to understand better what I'm doing here. That's when I'm fulfilling my soul's purpose. I am not a fraud. I am on a glorious journey of discovery, of becoming, of healing and evolution, and of putting something beautiful expansive, expanding, healing out into the world.